Hello, listeners, and welcome to the first episode of Don't Panic, You'll Get There. We hope to be a source of laughs, Schadenfreude, support, and occasionally good advice for all of us out there that made that crazy big decision to move to Germany. In this first episode, I sit down for a conversation with Luisa Barbero. She is a designer and creative who has been living in Berlin since 2016. We filmed and recorded this first episode with a minimal crew, zero budget, and an experimental structure in mind. This first episode is intended to be an open conversation for entertainment purposes only. All information and opinions are our own and not intended to be taken as legal advice, immigration or otherwise. We hope you enjoy the first episode and thank you for listening. Los geht's! Episode 1, How to Be Yourself in Berlin, or The Peeling Egg Situation. Hello, welcome to the very first episode of Don't Panic, You'll Get There. It's a brutally honest podcast about living as a foreigner in Germany, failing until you succeed, and finding hope against adversity. And I'm here with my very first guest, Luisa Barbero. We're in her flat. It's a very cool flat with lots of plants, and we've got some guitars behind us here. Yeah, Luisa, could you start by giving us a little bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Caitlin, for having me. I'm very honored to be your first guest. Very happy and very excited about this.
I was excited too.
As you might be guessing from my name, I'm Italian. I'm not Spanish. And I'm 28. I come from Torino, Italy. I've been living in Berlin since 2016 at this point, so quite a while. I currently work as a UX designer for a tech company in Berlin. I came to Berlin to study communication design, and then things eventually led to me staying here for 6 years. It was quite unexpected. And before that, I have a background in art. I studied in Torino, my hometown. And I used to live in Germany previously to coming here in 2016. So I was a newbie, but a relatively non-newbie to the whole thing. Yeah.
But you spoke German fluently before you came here as well.
Yeah, I mean, not as fluently as I do now, because the thing is, I moved to Frankfurt am Main when I was around 8 years old. I used to go to the European school there because of my dad's work. My whole family moved for a year. And so basically most of my time activities that were classes were in Italian because that's how the school works. But then most of the activities I had to do with other German kids. So, I mean, German and every other nationality you can possibly imagine that was there.
But you were all socializing in German pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I really pretty much learned German by mistakes, by repeating what other kids were saying without having no concept whatsoever of what I would say is called linguistic shame, which is kind of what you get when you're a bit more of an adult.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I have repeated things that I will never dare to repeat, but that's just life. And it really also helped me approach the language with a bit less stress, because I didn't really think about grammatics and stuff. And I think that really helped me when I moved to Berlin too, because I already was a bit of a step ahead compared to most of my peers that maybe moved here without having any previous experience of the language, but also of the culture.
Right.
I also took a Goethe Institute intensive class before moving to Berlin in preparation for it. And I would really, really advise everyone that's moving to Berlin.
Yeah, me too.
To do this.
Even before you move to Germany to take classes. But I also took, I think, 2 classes now with the Goethe Institute, and now I do like an online study course with them, and I found them to be the best. They're really expensive, but they're worth it.
They're worth it,
and, I never learned a language so quickly.
Same.
It sounds like we're sponsored by Goethe Institute, but we're just...
Well, not yet, I suppose.
That would be nice to get that sponsor, though.
Yeah. But I think, I don't know, from my experience, the thing was that since I didn't really have to worry so much about the language, I could worry about all the rest without having to focus on that. So I would say if someone plans to come to Germany, if you come from a language that absolutely has nothing in common with German, please take some language classes, at least like to know the bare minimum. Because the thing is, if you're moving to Berlin, it's very human as a city, so you can kind of live with English and that's about it.
Yeah.
But in the moment where you have to step in things that are more like bureaucracy or
exactly.
finding work or even like medical things. It
Mm.
always helped to at least have the bare minimum to have some sort of an idea of how it works. Because sometimes you look at the words and you're like, why am I doing this to myself?
If you just come to Berlin as a visitor or for a couple of months, even Erasmus, like one of my flatmates is doing an Erasmus right now, I think you can get by with just English very easily. But if you want to integrate into life here, it's really essential to learn German. And I think that's something I really underestimated when I moved here, because I'd always heard from everyone, oh no, in Berlin, you don't need German, no. But it's a big lie.
Yeah, I mean, you can be very privileged and work and live in an environment where you don't need any German. Like,
I know some people who've been able to do it too, but I think you always remain an outsider nevertheless, and you always have difficulty with the bureaucracy too. It's true.
You're never really even fully integrated. Oh, I'm going to the park and I see these people playing volleyball and I really want to play with them, and maybe they don't speak any other language besides German. Maybe you find a way to communicate, but it would be much better to be able to communicate in German. I think it also helps you a lot with understanding the culture and how things work. But when I moved here, I went to German university, but my program was fully in English. My master in communication design, even if the official name is Kommunikationsdesign, which I dare anyone that doesn't know German to try and write it down. But I was there, I was having my classes all in English. Most of my classmates, besides one, that was German, two actually, that are German. The others were all international students, so none of us spoke German or spoke very little German. And then from there, I started working for a company that was Italian-German, an Italian-German cinema production. It kind of flowed into my life after going to an Italian embassy event. I went there, met these people, and then we started working together. But it was super easy because they were speaking in Italian with me. Yeah. And we were all Italians. So I didn't really have the barrier. You know, even just knowing the level of German I had at the time, I could very easily go by with everything. I feel like it's also a language that when you understand it, and everything makes sense because it's very logical, but it's getting there that is a little bit, I wouldn't say complicated, but it obviously, like every other language, it takes effort. I mean, I'm learning other languages right now, and you can see it takes a lot of effort. And I feel also as an adult, sometimes we're a bit like, oh,
it's harder.
Do I want these other adults to know that I'm not completely proficient in this? Like there's that little level of shame, which is completely useless. I mean, I don't think anyone should have it, because I feel like, and I've seen it also in Berlin, when people see that you're trying really hard to speak with them in German,
they always appreciate it.
Even if they switch to English 4 seconds after, because in Berlin that's super common that people just switch to English if you're lucky, to Russian if you're a little less lucky.
I always ask or apologize when I have to switch now, which maybe I didn't do when I first moved here, but I think
I don't think you should apologize.
Oh, really?
I think it's like, because you're showing that you're putting the effort, and so it's like you're giving your hand towards that direction, you know. You're sending your effort, and if there's a couple words that you don't know or something, I think the people on the other side will totally understand that you still have the good intention. Maybe I would switch if you don't really know what's the word that you want to use, or if you're not super comfortable in saying that word, but I would not apologize.
Yeah, I mean, one of my first friends living here that I knew in Berlin, and she moved here, and she has a boyfriend who's German, and she learned German just by talking with other Germans in bars and forcing herself into conversations and forcing people to talk to her in German, even if she couldn't really fully do it yet. And she would just, and I admire people like that who can just be like, oh no, I don't know this word. What is this word? And then they tell you, and you just continue the conversation like that. You keep trying and trying and trying. And I think that's pretty necessary with German.
And I think if you don't have to be afraid of saying like sorry, can you please repeat this? I don't really understand what it is, because
Sometimes
I found
they
that
speak really fast.
sometimes we all, I think, when we're comfortable with the language,
in your
we
own
speak
language,
really
you speak
fast.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard so many times when I speak Italian that people are like, can you please slow down for a second? And it's but that's also a good mindset mechanism, because I saw how it worked not only in German everyday life, asking what things mean, but then it put me in this position that also at work, I'm like, oh, I'm not 100% sure about this thing. Let me ask you, did I get it correctly? Does this exactly mean this? Or is this exactly working like this?
Right.
And people appreciate, because you're also putting yourself in the position of saying, I'm learning from you. And I think people love when you ask them something. But also it stops you from making that mistake again. Like, if you're comfortable with a word, then you know, oh, that means that I can go on with my life. It takes this weight off of you.
That's true.
And I think that's very helpful.
Yeah, I always kind of wonder how this works at German companies that hire foreigners, because when I apply for jobs here, I see often not only do they ask for fluent German, they ask for Muttersprache. So it's your mother tongue, so that you're not even missing these like different subtleties, differences of language.
Yeah.
But I wonder about the difference there between someone who's fluent and someone who's Muttersprache, and you know, how much is tolerated actually.
I think it depends a lot on the company that you find yourself in. I currently work for a German company, but most of our meetings, because the company's policy is that we speak English, because it's an international company, so we speak English at work, but we have meetings where we're all German-speaking people, so we just switch to German.
That's interesting. I didn't know it was officially like international, so you speak English.
We speak. I think we have more than like 20 nationalities or something like that, but most people are not German or are not fluent in German, so we switch to English. But the company I worked previously for, that was not a tech company, it was a web design service company, kind of branded itself in a certain way, and then reality was a little different. Like, when I got the job, it was during the pandemic, so I think that's also when everyone else was like trying to sell themselves a little bit to be like a bit more attractive. Probably they will have some incentives, I don't know.
Like companies or individuals?
Companies mostly. When I got offered this job, they were like, oh yeah, no problem, you will have no contact with clients. It's in German, but it's web design, so most of it is, you know, you shouldn't really talk with anyone. It's there, the talking is relatively limited. It happened at the time my German was better. Obviously it wasn't as fluent as it is right now. This was about 2 years ago. And the thing is, I found myself in a situation that was very helpful, in the sense that having to speak in German every single day ensured that I practice like crazy, that I would search for words, that I would look up vocabulary, things that I would hear what my colleagues would say, and then like kind of try and imitate that, which taught me quite a lot and gave me a lot of confidence in my German. But at the same time, sometimes you don't find necessarily the most open and understanding individuals. So I had some colleagues that were absolutely amazing people, and that also spoke more than one language. So they would sometimes we would sometimes have conversations in English or other languages, because we could understand each other in other ways, and it made everything flow very easily. And then I found some colleagues that had this like big barrier, or that they thought that because my German wasn't as fluent and as dialectly strong as their German, I wouldn't understand them, which is absolutely not true.
Talking to you or bringing sometimes situations to you because of that reason?
They would more like try and have like some sort of, we used to work in an open space, and it was this thing of like, oh, let me have a conversation with a person sitting next to me while I'm staring directly at you, thinking that you don't understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
And it happened that it was also a moment where someone that shouldn't have necessarily said certain things was sitting in front of me in a call with someone else, speaking in German, talking and saying bad things about me,
so they just
thinking that I couldn't know. And they would just kind of like underplaying on the level of ability I have. But you know, you find bad people everywhere, and I'm sure in every country you can find people that think that just because you're a foreigner, you're not able or as capable of other people to learn. But this was really a point that made me want to understand that I had to quit the job because it wasn't really for me. And also it pushed me to work on my German so much that now I try that when I speak, I don't want people to understand that I'm not German.
Yeah.
And I have managed this a little bit. It's not perfect yet.
Yeah, but you've told me some great stories where like, and you have a really unique background because not only are you Italian, but you're from the side of Italy that's quite French too. So you know a lot of French as well, and other languages too. How many languages do you speak actually?
Well, my mother language is Italian, and then I have my dialect. I speak French since I was a kid, English since I was a kid, German. I'm learning Brazilian Portuguese just because it sounds very nice and I like it. I'm also trying to learn Russian again. I had started during the pandemic, but it was kind of one of those pandemic projects that it was like, I had so much energy for this, and then it just kind of spiraled into nothing.
I feel like languages are like one of the most important like currencies that we have. Like if you speak multiple languages, you can do so much. I mean, but it puts you in some unique situations. So you sometimes people don't assume you know German or English or Italian or whatever, or French. Yeah. And then, you know, you can jump into conversations, be but I actually know this. And you've told me a lot of stories like this.
That's like one of my favorite tricks, not tricks, but like favorite things in living in Berlin is that there's so many people that live here from all over the world. But what I love is that you see a bit of a difference between the people that live here and are aware that they are surrounded by this multitude of people that are multi-language speaking. And then there's tourists. And not all tourists are bad, obviously.
No.
We are all tourists in some sort of degree whenever we travel.
Yeah, of course.
But I absolutely love when there's tourists that are 100% unaware of the fact that the people around them can understand
what they're saying. Yeah.
And
they also don't understand that many Germans speak better English than them sometimes.
Yes.
Like even, you know.
Most Italian tourists big underestimate how many Italians there are in this city. We are so many. Had plenty of situations. This happens mostly on the trains back and forth from the airport, so S9 or the fast train from Ostkreuz, but there's either like a school trip or something, and you're dying a little bit inside because you're saying like, I don't know, cliche things or doing, I don't know. I've met a class that had stolen boiled eggs from the hotel they were in.
How do you steal boiled eggs from a hotel?
But also if you have to have around, you know, you have plenty of choice of food, you steal boiled eggs. I don't know. That's crazy. Anyway, they probably stole them from breakfast or something.
If I was stealing from a buffet, eggs are not what I would go for. Right? I would go for like, you know, the croissants or like, I don't know, nice fruit or something. Something that jam, like the little packets of jam. I would just steal a bunch of those.
But also if you're at the hotel that you paid for, are you really stealing? Like, I mean, that's a bit of a philosophical question.
No, but why would you take so many eggs? They're also going to start smelling really soon.
Exactly. So the situation was this class that started frantically peeling boiled eggs on the train to the airport and eating them like they that was like the only thing they had ever eaten in the last 15 years. I don't know. And their teacher was also like very concerned. She also was peeling a couple eggs and teaching them quicker ways of peeling the eggs.
These were teenagers, I guess.
Yeah, I think not older than like 14, 15. And they were so loud, like the entire train. And a background thing for the non people that live in Germany, like not the non-people, but the people that don't live in Germany.
For all you non-people, we're all people out here.
To a certain degree.
Some more than others.
Yeah. Germans are very quiet on trains, especially. As an Italian, I appreciate this so much because you can sit on the train and have some sort of a relax. I mean, in Berlin, then every 5 seconds is someone extremely weird that can walk next to you, so you know you get the entertainment somehow in other ways, but it's usually relatively quiet, especially morning trains going to the airport.
For sure.
So me and this other bunch of people are expecting it's 6:30 in the morning, we're going to the airport, it's going to be chill, 20 minutes.
Quiet as church.
Quiet. And no, there's a peeling egg situation. And I'm feeling so awkward because I can understand them.
Peeling egg situation.
Yeah. I can understand them. And then I raise my head and I make eye contact with this guy that is purple, basically. And he was so red. And I understood that he was also Italian. And he was also very embarrassed. Oh. And we made eye contact, and it was the typical eye contact I usually have with other Italians in Berlin. That it's like, I know you're one of my people, but we're both not going to disclose this information. We're just going to keep our shame for ourselves.
You have a secret nonverbal eye language as well as
eye
language.
Or
with Italians.
Or another thing is when there's people looking at the map in the U-Bahn or on the trains, they're trying to go to a stop. And again, they're Italian. Maybe they're like looking at the map. They're super confused. They get the stops wrong, which, I mean, I did my master thesis on the navigation system because it's impossible to navigate most of the time, unless you have like 25/20 vision and you can read the maps that are strategically placed on the top of the train because, you know,
look at Google Maps.
Yeah. But when there's this situation of like people like being a bit stressed, my favorite thing also when they're walking around with maps, that I go like behind them or like next to them and I say like, oh, actually to go there you're getting off at the next stop, or you're getting off here, in Italian. And they are like so puzzled because they don't expect someone to speak to them in Italian. They're like, oh my God, other people know my language.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people don't always expect, I mean, Berlin is really well known as one of the most international cities, and still people are surprised.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised by like other Europeans finding this surprising because you're all very close to each other. I get why Americans wouldn't get it because Americans are pretty ignorant as a general rule. Well, in my experience, but
I think it's more like you're on vacation and you kind of forget that other people can also be your people because you leave your country. And then you're like, oh, let me shut this door real quick and go somewhere else and enjoy that somewhere else. And then you don't realize that there's actually more of your people there than they might be. Like when you know one or two more languages and you're in Berlin, you can hear whatever things from the people on the train. I've heard French ladies disclosing very graphic medical things to each other at 7:30 in the morning on the train while I was going to university. And me and my friend, who both speak French, we were looking at each other like, should we say something? And then at a certain point it went a bit too graphic and we were like, sorry, we understand, but probably other people on the train understand too.
You told it to these ladies.
And they also were so embarrassed.
Did they also turn purple?
Very much so.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, my favorite thing to do in Berlin is also to mess with other Americans. I will walk around saying like, oh God, I hate it when Americans come to Berlin and they do these things. And I say it loudly because I want them to hear me. But
do you ever got any reactions from it?
No, because they're too loudly speaking to themselves. They don't realize what's going on around them.
Not very self-aware.
No. Also, apparently Americans don't think I sound very American anymore, which I don't know whether to take that as an insult or not. I do sound American still because when I talk to Germans, they immediately know that I'm from the United States. Immediately. But Americans are like, oh, where are you from? I'm from the United States. Oh no, I thought you had a German accent. I'm like, I definitely do not. Until a German tells me that, I don't believe it.
I would definitely not. I mean, I've heard people that speak, English or other that have a German accent, like a thick German accent, and I don't think you have a German accent.
Nope.
You don't speak like this for now. So,
really not.
I mean, maybe that's a reverse goal, that you live here for so long that you end up having a German accent.
I don't really want a German accent. What it would be nice is to like lose more the American accent, but I just want to be like a blank page. Like I want people to talk to me and not know where I could be from.
Me too. I can practice a lot for
they
that.
Don't have this accent or that. Like I can't figure out where they're from. They're a mystery. I want to be a mystery.
Well, nice. I mean, it makes sense. It's also like quite nice to trick people. Also, like I had this tandem partner. We met once, and he speaks multiple languages, and most of the languages that I speak too. And we were sitting at the bar just simply having normal conversation, but we were like, let's make it a bit more interesting. Let's switch language every couple of words, or like
fun.
every couple
That's
of
a fun
sentences. And the people around us at a certain point, they were like, what's going on with these two people? Like, they were concerned but fascinated. And we were like, we can keep this going like for a little while.
That's honestly one of my goals, is I want to just evolve like a Pokemon to the point where I can just like switch between 3 different languages within a couple of sentences with someone. That would just be amazing. I want to get there. Could you tell me also, like, what is one of the best parts about living in Germany for you? Tell me something that makes you feel like, yes, okay, this is why I'm here.
The thing is, before moving to Berlin, I was living in Frankfurt am Main, but I was a child. So I had some sort of perception of how Germany was, but not really about the culture so much. And then when I moved to Berlin, I had no concept of Berlin whatsoever. I didn't do any research. I literally got an email that said, hey, you can come to the university 2 weeks after I was here.
You were just like,
no
I'm
research, nothing. I just really wanted to come here. And what I really, really love about Berlin is that it is a really harsh city. Like,
harsh, yeah.
People in the winter and people in the summer are so different. The winter people can be hardcore. I always say, come here and start in the winter. Don't come here and start in the summer, because you'll have all this, like,
fooled to
happy
think
people.
that everyone's this friendly. When
Exactly.
You come I've heard that tip too, and I think it's a good one, because like, if you can survive your first winter here,
you're fine.
Then you can probably make it. But try also surviving your first winter here while also in a pandemic. That's what I did.
That's one step harder. What I like about that is the fact that Berlin gives you the possibility that you can be whoever you want every day. You can be a different version of yourself every day. And
that's true.
Different version of yourself is very millennial cliche, so apologies, but no. I'm old enough.
I don't feel we have to apologize for that.
We're 90s kids.
Plus, we Gen Z would agree with us, I think. They like to be a different version of themselves every day, too.
Fair enough. But the good thing is, you can be all the versions of yourself, and you can find everything for all of your interests here. And I really love that. One day you want to do pottery, the next day you want to have a drum session with someone, the third day you want to learn, I don't know, harmonica from an Irish old person. You can do whatever you want to. Dance all the music that you want, every genre, everything. But that also forces you at a certain point to come to terms with who you are, really. Like the real version of yourself. Sounds again very cheesy, but when you can try everything, at a certain point, I think you see what you like better or not. Or you say like, oh, there's this thing, I've been wanting to try this for 15 years. Let me do it. You do it maybe as the best thing you've ever done in your life. Or maybe it's like, oh, okay, not for me. Thanks for trying, but
it can be surprising.
Not my thing. Yeah. And I don't know, I grew up thinking that techno was gross and that it was not. Well, I also grew up with like Italian techno music, which is a whole different thing of itself. And for example, at a certain point I was like, hey, I'm in the capital of techno, sort of, besides Paris and Torino, but we'll talk about that in another session. But I was like, okay, everyone's loving it here. I have somehow an idea of what I could like. Let me go to a club and see if I like it, or if I absolutely hate it, I never want to go there again. I went, I liked it. I'm not clubbing every week. I'm a very boring person for that aspect, but it was something that I would have never tried. And it's nice. And there's that with everything. I also tried sports that I would have never tried before. Like I'm super scared of heights and I could go bouldering and I loved it. But it's also, I think Berlin can be a lot of things, because I also love that it's little towns in the city. You can take the train and go from one place to the other, but that also means you can meet so many different people.
That's true.
From so many different backgrounds.
It feels like a different city everywhere you go. Like every neighborhood. I don't know, if you go from like Charlottenburg to Kreuzberg, you'd be like, is this the same city?
Exactly.
I'm not convinced it's the same city, so it's very strange.
But sometimes it's even like one street and the next street is like completely different. And
it's true.
I don't know, I lived in Kreuzberg, I think 3 years of my life. And I was living in the relatively boring / club seen area, and then 5 minutes walking from there, it's Kappelsatoa, which is a completely different world. And then 15 minutes walking after that, it's again a completely different area. And I love that because I've never found it anywhere else before. And so this is kind of like also one of the reasons why I always say to myself, I have not seen enough. I could stay here and every day go somewhere else in the city and I could still find something that I haven't seen, even if I've been here for 6 years. So that I found really fascinating. One of the things that it's also like nice and it hurts at the same time is that there's this constant like flow of people coming in. So I don't know,
coming and going, I would say.
Exactly.
It's a city constantly changing. I mean,
yeah,
like many cities, it's constantly changing, but Berlin changes in a very particular way. And a lot of it is, I think, due to how many people try to immigrate here, to not just to Germany, but to Berlin specifically. And, I don't know, if you follow social media pages that are centered around immigration in Berlin, you will see, a whole range from like the new hopefuls to the people who are like, I've been here for 5 years and I still am miserable and I can't integrate at all.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a city that I think it gives you a hand when you arrive, but then it's also like you can take it with the risks that it comes with or not, but it's also like I don't think it's a city for everyone.
Definitely not.
It also doesn't have the best climate on earth. Like that for me is the difficult part. Like I would love to have some sunshine and not that it the last days it's been spring, but then it just started randomly snowing the other day and it's like,
don't come to Berlin if you need good weather year round.
Yeah.
Or even, half of the year.
Yeah, I mean it's great for like hiking, doing water activities. There's hiking like all around Berlin. There's plenty of like natural parks and
but not like mountains. Like they're very flat. They're more walking than
it's more like a
hiking.
Gentle.
But I grew up in a mountain city, so I'm really like, don't call it hiking.
Never.
Unless you
want to take a 2.5-hour trip to Poland, then you can find a mountain.
Exactly. Oh, I would like to find a mountain nearby. But it's true. There's so many different things you can find here. There's even, talking about trekking, there's even an island with peacocks.
Yes.
And a small castle that apparently I've just learned exists. And as soon as the weather gets nicer, I want to go see this place. Absolutely. It sounds like a fairy tale. There's it's weird. Like you can live here for years and not know that some of this stuff exists. I didn't know.
But also the surroundings. Like I went for the first time a couple of weeks ago to Leipzig and I had never been to Leipzig in 6 years and it's literally an hour away. But I was always too lazy because I was like, I'll eventually go.
It's too easy to put off these things because you can easily stay in Berlin and do a bunch of stuff. But there's so much cool stuff just outside.
And get a bike. I mean, you don't want to take public transportation with all the normal people that already take public transportation, plus all the tourists.
So full in the summer on the trains here.
Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing service. I think that's one of the perks of Berlin, the fact that you don't really need a car to live here. You can just use public transport. It's like I'm Italian. If it's 6 minutes late, for me, it's still on time.
Yeah.
Even if I'm becoming a little bit Germanized. But... you can rely on it most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
Quite rare that something happens.
Like, I lived in New York City as well, and the trains there are constantly late, and, I've also become a bit spoiled living here now, so when the trains are like, the train is late, how dare it? I took a trip back to New York recently, and then I realized, oh, no, we have it good here. It's also,
it's expensive, but it's good.
I was also shocked by how loud the trains were. All the people talking, the performers who come in and dance and everything. And I realized that, I lost a lot of my, ability to tolerate those things when I was living in New York. And now I've come to Germany, even though I'm living in a city which is also very vibrant and crazy and lots of stuff going on, I've sort of become more sensitized to things,
certain things,
loud sounds and,
and people
and
being loud.
jaywalking.
Oh, yeah. Well, I still haven't
know.
figured out really how people walk because I keep on getting in the way of people but I guess that's just a me problem.
Germans like to walk so that they block most of the sidewalk for everyone, I've realized. Like, if you walk closely behind them, it's like they don't realize. And then you walk, like, really around them so that you make sure they know that that they were in your way, and they just don't care.
You were not a calculated risk. It's like it wasn't planned, so it doesn't have to happen. You know, it's like that kind of thing. But
I guess so.
I think I make a lot of jokes about Germans in general, but if I've been here for 6 years, that means I like them. Yeah, you know, and I hope they like me back.
I like Germans when I can talk to them one-on-one, and I realize, like, oh, they're just people too. But sometimes I think get too down on Germans when I'm frustrated with, like, the bureaucracy or societal problems at large.
I think it's also because you're here and that's the bureaucracy that you have to deal with, and it's like a complicated language and all of that. I think all countries have it. The only issue that has Germany maybe compared to other mostly like Northern European countries is that we're still quite backwards with like a technological level. Like there's a lot of things that you could be doing online that are not really being dealt online. Really
not like, thank God we have you here for UX design also, because like German websites are bad. Like, if you want to find anything on a German website, good luck.
It's, especially the bureaucratic ones can have multiple subpages that you didn't know could exist.
And sometimes the subpages do the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, which one am I supposed to use?
Which is also quite weird that because we think of Germans as like very analytic and organized people. I think when things don't work, because you have this bias before, you're like, oh, but this is the country where things are supposed to work. Like my bias was like, oh, in my country, there are so many things that have warped their way in how they're supposed to work. So we all kind of gave up a little bit, and we're like, okay, it's not working. Hell, let me wait 45 minutes.
You're just someone's gonna show up. This is how life is. Things don't work.
Yeah. But in Germany, I'm like, oh, I kind of expect it to work properly. I kind of expect people to know things. And it's also my fault because they're humans. Like everyone else, they just speak German.
It's true. It's true. But do you have any regrets about moving here? Is there something you would have done differently if you were to do it over again? Things that you were like, oh, I was so naive back then. Why didn't I do it like this?
The biggest issue I had when I moved here was definitely finding an apartment, which it's not really a topic that gets better with time while you're here, but you get less naive. Yeah. Because I came here thinking, oh, of course I'm gonna find an apartment in a week. And once they understand that you're not really in the system when you're new, there's so many scams, and I lost so much time, and I gave into like writing so many emails. Like I had an interview with someone's cat because they were looking for the perfect flatmate, and it's like, okay, that you can definitely spare to yourself.
But like, wait, you had to have an interview with their cat to make sure you would get along with their cat?
Yeah, if the cat will get along with me.
I see.
The thing is, I am allergic to cats. And the interview was on Skype. So there was just no possibility for this interaction to happen. But just somehow this person was so into it that I was like, okay, well, whatever, let's do this. So but, now I would know, okay, I'm just losing an hour of my time. I don't want to do this. And I mean, the regrets are also is like not doing enough research on the city before coming here. I think, it's nice to take a big step and just go and throw yourself in whatever comes, which is fine. But if you know a little bit more, you also know, where do I want to live? Who are the people I want to be with? What are the things that are interesting to me that I can go and put myself in from the beginning, which it wasn't really something for me. Like my first months were literally dealing with school and flatmates and finding apartments and understanding the world, navigating, which also helped me a lot, but I definitely could have done that better. Yeah. Definitely. And I mean, there's always the thought of I'm not home with my family. I don't see my brother growing. I don't see my parents interacting every day. I'm not there with them. I'm also not part of the things I used to be in when I was in my country. I was very involved in all of the stuff, and I'm not there anymore. So, and I see these things progressing. but there's not much I can do from the distance.
Yeah.
And I have a group of friends that were very, very, we grew up together. Most of them, I know them since I was 10. So very, very strong bond. And one started working in a place and the other one went to Amsterdam, and the other people started, living with their partners. And so we don't see each other that often anymore. And the bond is still strong. Yeah. But it's not as, it's not the same of like, we live in a 10,000 people village. Oh, I'm just walking around now, coming to your house and ringing the bell, the next one. And we all go in the garden and have a chat.
But I mean, that's something you also can't help. Like, it can be that you stay in the same place forever, and a lot of your friends stay in the same place too. Some people experience this, but a lot of us, move away or have our friends or family move away. And at the end of the day, like, we have to decide where would make us happy to be. When I decided to move here, I was living in New York. I thought I was going to live in New York forever. Like, it was going to be my place.
Is the cool place on earth.
It is, but it also has, it has a lot of its own problems too. Part of the reason that made me decide to do that was close friends there were moving away. And I couldn't imagine New York didn't feel the same without my friends there, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And even when I went back to visit recently to see a couple of my friends who were still there, I felt this even more strongly. I felt that I made the right decision to leave, actually, because it did. It felt less like a place that belonged to me. Yeah. Because, I had spent years building these connections with people, and the important things about a place is also the people who are there. Yeah. Definitely. And when you move to a new city, obviously you start from square zero, and I knew, I think, like 2 friends who were living here, both American. Yeah, I'm not going to be totally alone. Yeah. Now they have both since come and gone, and come and gone and come and gone from here. And I've made new friends, new connections, of course.
It's also quite hard to make like very long lasting friendships. Like, I think of people that stay, because there's a lot of people that come in to try out the city, and then they become friends, and maybe they become really good friends, and then they leave for some reason or whatever. You can't really help it. I think it's also good that some people they're meant to be with you in somewhere with a certain part of your life, but then it's kind of over. And I think Berlin kind of throws that at you, like being hit with bricks multiple times. That's true. And the bricks are harder and harder every time. It also kind of, I think, makes you learn a bit more of who you want to allow in your life and who you don't want to. Like, you can say like, oh, I don't really want to have a deep connection to this person. Maybe we're just colleagues and we see each other every day at work. We have a chat. It's all chill. It's a nice person. You have a nice relationship, but it's never really goes below a certain level. And with other people, you really feel that there's a very strong, intense connection. And even if you don't see each other all the time, you know that they're there. And I find that's quite nice and quite comforting.
We are like, I don't know, 3 years now out of the pandemic, but it still sort of feels like we're in it. Okay, what's next? Like, what are we doing now? We've all gone through this thing together, and we're all just trying to like move on with our lives with varying degrees of success. I would like to know, like, as someone who, at least I see, who has a big success story here in Berlin, and as someone who could be considered like sort of an outsider to German society, like, what do you do in your times of crisis to keep yourself calm and remind yourself, like, okay, I'm going the right direction, like, it's gonna be okay.
Well, it's a bit mechanism that I had to learn, and the pandemic was a bit brick again in my face for this. I've never really thought about self in general before, like, not so much especially when you step out of school, it was kind of weird for me to see, like, where am I placed? Where do I see my value? But now, sometimes when I have these moments where I'm, like, a bit lost and a bit sad, I think about, like, oh, I have these friends and I have a house, and every day I work, and what I work on is interesting and I'm interested in it, and I have studied for it and I feel proud of it. And then I think, okay, when I go outside, I can do this and this thing, and I've earned it because I came here and I left everything behind somehow, like, not left behind and forgot about it, but I had to, put family and friends, they're in one place and I'm here, and it makes me really sad, but I'm here and I work so hard you know, I have success now in the things that I did. It's not the craziest success on earth, but I have a roof, I have a good partner, I have good friends. I can go outside, and if I want to buy myself food or stuff, I have the biggest choice I could have because I chose to be in a place where I have all this variety. I can do whatever activities. If tomorrow I want to fly to Amsterdam to see my friend, I can do it. And these are the things that, you know, it kind of took especially like my family to help me remind myself of this. And they were always like, oh no, but you've done this and you've done this. And I was like, oh, did I? Oh yeah, true, I did. I don't love to be auto-celebratory. I hate the idea of like, oh, look at me, I'm so good at this. Sometimes I think like, okay, I come from a 10,000 people village where I was a normal, relatively very weird kid. But still relatively normal, like nothing that was like sparking anything. And then moving to Germany the first time, kind of, I think it nudged me. And then coming here and going through all the struggle and see my friends also going through the struggle makes me really think so much, what are the things that make me happy in life? Do I have them? And when everything's falling around me, it's kind of like I can grip on, I have friends, I have a good life, I can now close my laptop even if it's a work day and go outside, take a walk, buy myself an ice cream, sit on a bench, read my favorite book for 10 minutes. I can do this because I have built myself a life that allows me to do it. I can tell the people I work with, hey, I'm having a bad day, and they'll be like, sure, happens to everyone. It's okay. I can be honest with my feelings with my friends and with my family. I can do things that make me happy. And I think reminding myself of this, even sometimes in a bit of a harsh time, like, I don't know, I had stupid moments where I'm like, let me have a look at my CV and see what the hell's written on there. And it's cheesy, but then it's like, oh yeah, actually in that year I was there and I did this and it made me happy.
I think it's easy to forget like all the stuff we've built on over the years to get where we are now, and take it for granted, especially when we're going through something difficult. Like, look where I am.
Exactly.
Like, look what it took for me to get here and to stay here through a pandemic that's like, you know,
learning a new language, building a new life, and finishing your studies successfully and doing the work that you like. I mean,
like, I don't know, it's it takes me sometimes a bit to remind myself this stuff, but like, part of the reason this podcast is called Don't Panic, You'll Get There is it's something that my dad tells me a lot of the time. Like, whenever I am talking to him about like, oh, I'm like struggling with this thing, it's not going well, like, I don't know how I'm gonna get there, blah blah blah. He's like, he always says like, don't worry or don't panic, you'll get there. Like, he's so assured that I'm going to get where I want to go. And I think sometimes my loved ones have more faith in me than I do, that I will get to that place, even if I don't really feel like I have a plan or a map to get there. But like, you know, sometimes you end up going unexpected places too. It's not like my plan some years ago was to come to Berlin and like choose an entirely different life and like learn an entirely different language and all this stuff. So
I think if you're flexible, it's also like being flexible with your dreams. Like, if you put yourself in a cage and you say like, oh, in 2 years I have to be there, then you're gonna be unhappy because you're gonna stress about it so much, then you're not gonna let other things from your life flow in.
It's true.
And I think if there's one thing that Berlin teaches you, if someone hands you something, take it, and it's true. Go with it, go with the flow of things.
Going with the flow is important. It's true. I mean, if I had like followed my strict dream plan some years ago, like, I'm gonna stay in New York City and I'm gonna work for a production company and I'm gonna, I don't know, like, do all this stuff, my life would look really different right now. And I'm not really sure I would like how it looks or not. I mean, I would be a totally different person. Like, there's something about, I don't know, unlived lives that I find really interesting, but
it's quite a book topic.
But you have to sort of, I don't know, I feel at my moments where I feel sort of panicking about something, I try and put myself as like a reader reading a book about my own life.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like following along through, like, I wonder where she's gonna go. Like, where is this leading? It could go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I just try and find like a calm detachment from things to be like open to, okay, let's see where this goes.
Yeah. One of my flatmates had a t-shirt with an elephant that represented like all the difficult things in growth. And there was a quote that said, "How do you eat an elephant?" And the answer was with a tiny spoon, bite by bite. And it's kind of like, you know, it's like all the tiny steps and you don't even think about it. But then if you take a spoonful and a spoonful, then at the end you ate the whole elephant. And it's horrifying, but it's also, you know.
But it's a good metaphor for this, yeah.
Yeah, and I think if I had a piece of advice to give like to people that just moved to Berlin or that are here and they feel a bit
stuck,
get a
little spoon and start eating that elephant.
Be your own little spoon.
Yeah.
And that's like...
Yeah, that's what I would tell them too, is like, Number one, don't underestimate what it will take.
Yeah.
Don't just think it's going to be easy, but also don't let that stop you from starting, and like start as soon as you can. Like get that little spoon.
And value yourself for starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you gotta just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I have one last question for you, which I thought of some hours ago as like kind of a funny thing to tie into this theme of like I don't know, immigrating to Germany and going around in our individual stories and everything. Would you tell me, Luisa, what do you keep on your keychain?
Okay.
I think it says a lot about a person what they keep on their keychain.
So my keychain it's pretty weird. The first thing is a carabin that I bought sometime in Kaufland for unknown reasons, but I just thought it was very helpful. It's like it's a very Berlin thing not to carry a bag, so I was like, okay. Well.
And Kaufland is this giant like department store in Germany. Like, they sell pretty much everything.
Flashy color carabine, good kind of keeps everything together, and you can stick it to everything. So I like how it's sturdy. You know, it's like a solid thing you can hang on to.
I will also show my. I have also.
You're also a carabin club person.
A carabiner. I think it's a Berlin thing also that everyone keeps their keys on some form of carabiner because you just need to stick everything on it, and it says on mine like not for climbing. to give you the sign that it's not for climbing.
Yeah.
What else have you got there? I see an egg.
I have an egg that is I found it actually in this like mini grocery store kind of bodega thingy near Eberswalder Straße. It is made by a Japanese artist, and it's I actually, the reason why I love it, not just because it's a boiled egg, which it's a like
We're
a
going
section.
back to the boiled egg story.
Exactly.
Wow, this ties in so well.
It's a section of a boiled egg, and it has one side that is fully flat, and it's kind of like nice to touch because it feels like a laminated page.
Oh, yeah, that's satisfying.
And then the other side, it's even more satisfying because the red side of the egg is like textured, and so when I have it in my hands and I'm kind of anxious, I actually have a record of never losing my keys in Berlin, so I don't know if the carabiner is like
knock on wood.
Yeah, if I lose them tomorrow, I'll know. But yeah, going back to the keychain, the last thing I have is this key thing that I got at the Martini museum. I went to see it with my parents. And it was kind of a...
Where's the Martini Museum?
It's in my region in Italy, and my region is called Piemonte, and it's where Martini was founded and it's from. And so we decided to take a little trip all together and see the factory, go and see how they make all the products. There's a bit of a museum, and then you can try and taste some of the stuff. And they also have a racing car that's like branded Martini, and I found it really, really nice, very fascinating. I really love racing cars, and so I got this to remind myself a bit about this. You know, it's a bit of a good experience I had with my family. It's something from my area that everyone's very proud of. I'm very proud of too. A very fascinating story. So it's a good reminder of home.
Yeah, that's nice to keep.
Not too cheesy.
Some I also have a couple.
Oh yeah, you have
a couple reminders of. I mean, sort of home. I have My main keychain fob is this green hotel-looking thing, and it says the Great Northern Hotel, Twin Peaks, Washington, 315.
Nice.
And it's from one of my favorite TV shows, Twin Peaks.
It's very
David
cool.
Lynch, Mark Frost.
Nice.
And I am not from Washington. I'm actually from Oregon, but it's, you know what? It's close enough.
Yeah.
It reminds me of tall pine trees. And when I see it coming home late at night in Berlin, I'm like, I just think about the pine trees, and it sort of makes me feel cozy.
Soothing thought.
And I like that it looks like a hotel keychain. Like there's always somewhere I could go. I don't know, this imaginary place. And
was that a little Swiss knife?
I also have a Swiss Army knife that's not really.
That's very cute.
It's got. I mean, it doesn't really have much on it. It's got like tiny scissors, a nail file, a very tiny little knife, and that's it. It's not that impressive of a Swiss Army knife, but it comes in handy. Like, especially the scissors, I feel like for random threads, I use them a lot. And then I, of course, have the thing that I think everyone in Berlin should have on their keychain, which is a bottle opener. And I mean, you can be that cool person, really German thing to like open the bottle cap with another bottle cap, which I haven't learned how to do, or you can be that other really hipster person to open a bottle with a lighter. But every time I do that, I sort of cut my hands, and I just prefer not to have that risk. And I don't really feel like, I don't know, I've kind of, after 3.5 years here, I sort of stopped caring about being that cool person all the time. And I think that's such a big relief. Because there's so much pressure when you come to Berlin to be like cool and alternative, and and blah blah blah.
Isn't it quite funny?
Anyway, I just opened this.
Isn't it quite funny that the people that try and be so cool are the ones that are not that cool?
I feel that way now too, but I think they're also so unaware that it's not important to me anymore. Like, I prefer more to have someone who's easy to talk to than is like cool, you know?
Yeah.
That I feel like I have to like keep up with their coolness to be friends with them.
It's a whole work in itself.
Yeah, I would rather just be myself. I mean, that's another piece of advice I would give to someone moving to Berlin is like, have fun with like the cool alternative crowd and everything, but like, don't let it eat up your own personality. Yeah. And don't let it make you feel bad about who you are, because who you are is just fine. And you can find people who like you for who you are here. You don't have to like learn to love techno
and fake a life that you
and
don't
get a bowl
like.
cut or a mullet haircut.
Don't get a mullet point.
I mean, I came here with a mullet and half a shaved head.
I shaved my head too.
I was like, I'm
recommend.
moving to Berlin. I have to fit in and have a cool haircut. So
for me, it was just like the water is so bad it damaged half of my hair.
Oh yeah, my hair is always damaged because the water here is just too hard.
Yeah, conditioner is the key. So you have the key of the fun life, which is very Berlin. I think that's
it's true.
It's it's the ultimate Berlin key.
Yes, the bottle
opener.
Yeah, I would honestly, if you're gonna have a little thing on your keychain here, bottle opener, super useful. You can always be that person, and also
it's good for making friends.
It's good for making friends, and also you can be that person who steps into all the alternative people opening their bottles with lighters and be like, "Do you just want to use this?" And then they'll be like, "Oh, okay."
Defeat them with their own battle. And also now it's soon Biergarten season. Another cool trip for making friends. Long tables. It's always full of people. It's just like, hey, do you mind me sitting next to you? Most of the people are gonna say yes, unless they're too cool for school, and that's also another tip.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people here are okay with chatting with strangers. Like, most people here are friendly.
Most of them, yeah. And if they're not friendly, you'll find enough friendly people to balance that out.
Usually the tougher and scarier they look, the friendlier they are.
Oh, yeah.
But I love the egg. The egg. And
Thank you.
I forget what was the phrase about the egg, but I think I want to make that the title of this first episode. Something about eggs to really draw them in. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Luisa. It's been really great talking to you.
Thank you.
I learned some cool insights, and I learned some things I didn't know about you before, so that was cool. So anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching and genuinely paying attention. It means a lot.
Thank you.
Until next time, this has been Don't Panic, You'll Get There, and I'll see you around. Thank you so much to everyone who contributed to the production of this pilot episode. We hope you enjoyed listening with us, and please follow us on YouTube and Instagram if you feel inspired. Until next time, bis später.